Hey everyone, it's Phil Hall of West Fair Communications, and thank you for joining us on today's West Fair video conversations. My guest is Suzie Hall, and I don't think we're related. Suzie is the founder and president of the Cornerstone Group, and you're doing some rather interesting work in terms of the hotel industry, Suzie. First, tell us a little bit about your company. I think it's the Cornerstone Collective, not the Cornerstone Group.
Yes, correct. And yes, thank you for having me, Phil. Interesting we have the same last name, but I don't think we're related.
That happens.
Well, in response to the global pandemic, our team really took a deep dive into looking at hotel guest rooms and public spaces, but most closely the guest room experience. And we have, over the years, designed 20 LEED projects, dozens of healthcare projects. I sit on a hospital board. And so having all of that experience in these conversations to really inform the design opportunities and the required level of scrutiny that we as design professionals should be giving to these hotels is very important. And so through our internal experience, our efforts, and our work together, we formed a group of standards called the Nexus Standards. And they are what we consider to be the top 10 categories of importance for designing and making selections within hotels, similar to LEED, so Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. I've been a board member for a local chapter, very, very familiar with that program. There are different categories, and within the categories, there are different credits available. Most people, well, I don't know of anyone that's ever gotten all the credits in a LEED project, right? That would be like LEED Platinum to the 10th degree. But we have worked on LEED Platinum projects, and they did achieve the highest percentage of credits available. And then there's focus areas, right? So indoor air quality is different than materials and resources, is different than the site. And so the Nexus program is similarly structured, but very much focused on the interior environments of hotels.
Well, everybody, of course, knows LEED as, pardon the expression, the gold standard for the green building movement. And of course, the buildings actually needed something like LEED because a lot of people may not realize this, but commercial properties are really one of the big polluters in our society. What is the status of the hotel industry, even before the pandemic, when it came to health safety?
Yes, so architects do a great job on the life safety for properties. The health and safety, what we've seen in our work in the hospitality space is that the safety is usually pretty well covered, but the health, meaning materials that can off gas or bringing in materials that emit things into the environment, weren't really carefully considered a lot of times. There are not many hotels that are well building certified or LEED certified. And we're big proponents of those programs because they really do provide a contextual framework to design a building and an experience in. And then we see the Nexus as implementing and supplementing those programs down to really detailed standards on the interior environment.
I want to share an anecdote with you. I was at a hotel here in my state of Connecticut last year, and I was with the director of marketing, and we were in the lobby dining area. And I had stopped and I said to her, you know, this is the first time in a very long time where I'm sitting in a hotel and I feel like I'm breathing clean air, not hotel air. Am I being a bit of a snob in terms of hotel air versus clean air?
Not at all. I am totally with you on that. The recycled feeling of air, right, and the heaviness and almost that the taste of it is like none other. And so I think a lot of people experience what you just described. And especially in response to this pandemic, we're seeing more hoteliers and operators understanding the importance of opening doors and bringing in the fresh air. And if there is an opportunity for operable windows, seeing those now going into new designs of hotels. And it just makes so much sense, right? The indoor environment is not the outdoor environment, but the more that we can bring those together and have the views and the fresh air access and the circulation, again, especially in guest rooms, I think the better off our whole planet's going to be.
I'm going to be reading from the screen the 10 standard areas that are being addressed with the Nexus standards. Those include disinfectability, cleanability, performance, health, environmental, price, life cycle cost, sustainability, proof of product properties, claims and warranties. I want to start with disinfectability because actually that sort of hits a little too close to home. The last time my mother was in a hotel was about 6 years ago, and she came out of it with bed bugs. And down in New York City, there had been, and in other places in the US, that's been something of a problem for years with the hotels. So in terms of disinfectability, what are the Nexus standards recommending so we don't have problems like this?
Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear about that experience, but it's all too common. So disinfectability is different than cleanability. And the reason disinfectability is so important is that it really gets to that source that needs to be cleaned and extracted. So visually or verbally, if you think of extracting anything from, say, carpet, right? That extraction process and the properties of the product are so important that the disinfection process, they match up. So the EPA is really the standard that we rely on, and the products and the method. And there's a lot of details. So EPA.gov, there's a lot on there, but that's really our standard of disinfectability. Um, Bleach cleaning, people are throwing solutions of bleach and just thinking that's going to disinfect and clean and it's going to save the world. And that is not the case. And so understanding that, okay, this is the type of, upholstery fabric that's on a lounge chair in a guest room. Well, what's below that fabric, right? Well, there's cushion, there's foam, or there's some type of material. Most often, unfortunately, the operators and owners don't know what's in there because the specifications didn't go that deep. So sometimes we're actually having to peel back the upholstery and take a look and get that evaluated, because you take that times 100, 150, that's a pretty big deal. And then the other piece about it is if the disinfectability or if the disinfection process isn't done properly according to those EPA guidelines, then those materials are going to start falling apart, because again, people are throwing all sorts of product at it and using these big suction machines, just almost trying to force the pathogens and the germs out. Or unfortunately, as the case with your mom, is that nothing's happening, right? And so that's also an awareness piece that the Nexus standards are out um, to do, is provide education around that, awareness and education.
Well, one of the key areas in the Nexus standards is price, and anybody running a hotel, of course, is running a business. Are these standards expensive?
And that's a great question. So when we first started our work in LEED in the mid 2000s, we did find that there were a lot of inflated prices for products and materials, just kind of because manufacturers could do that. They could kind of ride the green or the LEED wave, so to speak. But when we started asking them questions about why is this more expensive and that sort of thing, we were able to drill down. Well, fast forward now to 2020, and we just went through an exercise of our own volition for a hotel owner. We're designing 5 renovations to existing properties right now for this owner. And we took it upon ourselves to really look at brand standards for upholstery in the guest rooms for 2 chairs. We thought, what's the low-hanging fruit? And multiplying that by 100, 150 quantity, that's a pretty big impact. What we found through our Nexus standard and our work is we found a better looking, less expensive, higher performing EPA qualified product for both the upholsteries on those pieces. And if I were a hotel owner, I would jump at that. And to top it off, it had a 5-year warrant. It has a 5-year warranty on those fabrics, where the previous one had a 90-day warranty on the fabric. And so those are that's the kind of determination that we have to bring these Nexus standards and awareness to life through our work.
You mentioned education. How long is the education process for hotel employees to learn the Nexus standards?
So we actually have some affiliates that we work with for the hotel employee staff. So this really doesn't have much of a learning curve at all. I would say 1 to 2 weeks because most of it is written out and available in that type of a format. It's very straightforward with a lot of links and resources. But for the ongoing day-to-day operational, we know that that training and that reinforcement is important. And then that goes to the HR, the productivity, the morale, that space for integration. And we have a great affiliate called Blue Canary that we work with and recommend highly to work with the staff on an ongoing basis.
The hotel industry spans everything from the major theme park castles to El Cheapo Motel along the interstate. Is this something that's going to fit everybody?
We believe that it will provide the opportunity to fit everybody, again, with that comprehensive framework that owners and operators, even design professionals and architects can pull from and say, you know, of these 10, we really want to focus on disinfectability, price, life cycle cost, which ties to price, and then the proof of product claims and warranties. So maybe they choose 4 categories out of the 10. And from there, really drill down into delineating, again, what is that low hanging fruit? What can be implemented now? And what's going to last? This is not a pivot for us. This is not a cure-all for everything. This is something that's been ingrained in our company's practice for over a quarter, of a century. But what we're doing is we're marrying that up within the hospitality industry and providing a path forward and hoping that the decisions that are made now are going to hold up for the next 5, 7 years until the next renovation. That's really the goal with these Nexus standards. It's not a cure-all and it's not just a one-time thing. It's an education and it's a life cycle.
Is this going to be strictly for the U.S. hotel industry, or are you aiming overseas as well?
That's a great question. So originally we were just targeting the US, but we've already had conversations and interest from overseas because it is that straightforward and comprehensive. And what we've done is we've taken and amassed and amalgamated all of the different standards and information that's coming out so fast and furiously, right? So like antimicrobial, that's a buzz term in the industry right now that is not the solution necessarily. It can be, but understanding what does that mean and what is it being applied to and how is it being specified, that's not just a cure-all like throwing bleach at a chair to clean it or a floor, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that's woven into these standards, and that's a buzz term that internationally has been picked up because they have in Europe especially, they have some great products coming out, right? That do have some great antimicrobial and repellent properties. But again, it's not for every situation and every hotel and every, surface or piece of furniture.
Yeah, in listening to you discuss the Nexus standards as they relate to the hotel industry, I'm thinking these standards could be adapted in a certain way to maybe similar industries like the restaurant industry, to schools, or who knows, maybe even to Airbnb and the apartment and home sharing services. Are you looking into going to other industries with this as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. At this time, we're not. I definitely agree that there's applicability in these other markets. Um, we just have seen so much opportunity and so much interest in it in the hospitality industry that so far that's been our focus.
Well, what is the state of the hospitality industry now? We're recording this interview in mid-October 2020, and it's been something of a disastrous year for everybody, but particularly for the hotels. Do you see them getting themselves back on their feet and people coming back to stay at hotels?
We do. So in March, just like everyone in the hospitality industry, I think we had several projects get put on hold. But we also had several projects move forward, both new build and renovation. And in the last 2 months, we've really experienced an increased interest and an improved attitude of optimism out there. So, for instance, we just were awarded our largest new build hotel project in company history this month, and they are moving forward. And we don't hear much about the pandemic. And I think that that's very, very beneficial and very important for this hospitality industry, that we're focusing on the future. We know we're going to come out of this pandemic. We don't know when. We all thought we'd be through it by now, I think, right? But
That's
the reality is that we're not. But even in the midst of a global pandemic and practicing safety and wellness and keeping ourselves healthy, there's really a mindset. And the mindset that we have chosen to, align ourselves with, and hopefully others, and that's why they're coming to us, is that they feel confident that we see the path forward and we can create that path forward with them. So to me, that's a great sign of the industry, right, moving forward. And it's a branded hotel, it's a 4-star, and really investing in a destination. And I want more. Personally, I would like more hotel owners to be renovating their properties. It's a great time to renovate, and to do those while the occupancy rates are low, because we all know it's those guest complaints during renovations that that aren't very fun. And I really believe that those that I was just on a call with a third-party management company, and we both feel that those that are planning right now to move forward and come out of this, is that surge is gonna come back, and those that are prepared and ready are going to be well positioned to take advantage of that.
Suzie Hall, if we were to pick up this conversation 1 year from today, where do you see the Nexus standards within the hotel industry? What kind of a percentage do you think there will be for adaptability of these standards?
Hmm. I would really like to have the brands have brought these standards in, and we're having some conversations with the brands as we speak. So across the board, between branded and independent hotels, and comparing it to LEED and WELL in the hospitality industry, I would be happy in a year from now if we, had a 5 to 10% presence, because there are so many properties out there, and we understand that a lot of people are just trying to make it, right? Trying to just hold on. So I don't think it's realistic to expect a universal embrace of these standards. But over time, then maybe in 5 years, then we're up more in the 20%, where again, the education, the awareness first, and then the education, and then the adoption of these standards at some level has taken place. And that would be my hope.
Well, our video conversations are limited by time, but if our viewers wanted to continue the conversation with you, how can they get in touch with you?
So they can go to our website, which is thecornerstonecollective.net. They can also go to our YouTube channel, which is Cornerstone Interior Design. We have a whole video series on the Nexus program. They can learn more right away by just watching our videos there.
Well, that's great. Certainly, it's you can actually see it in motion. At this point, how many people have been watching those videos?
Oh gosh, I haven't checked recently, but we've gotten quite a few views, and it's been on our social media as well, several interviews. And we were just featured on the No Vacancy Live show last week with Glenn Hausman and Anthony Melchiori, and talked about that. So definitely a lot of interest.
Excellent. More power to you. Suzie Hall with the Cornerstone Collective, thank you so much for being a guest on today's West Fair Conversations.
Thank you, Phil.
And folks, we'll see you next week with another edition of our program. Until then, have yourselves a blessed day.